right, good evening. I'm Andrew Caravella, the host of Desert Empire Vibe, aka The Vibe. Brand new show here on KVVB Television, Channel 33. Also now live streaming via the Livestream app on Roku. Today we have an animal rights activist and actor, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Randy Massaro. Randall, right?
Randy, I don't care. I go by it all.
All right, well, I'll make something up in the middle of the show.
Okay.
So, all right, so here on Desert Empire Vibe, what we do is we kind of like to give like a spotlight to people that are in the entertainment industry to a certain degree, or musicians, you know, on the music scene, or just, you know, local people that are considered public figures. Yourself, I guess, would be considered under that since you do wildlife.
Yes.
So, all right. So we have a lot of exciting things in regards to wildlife that we're going to get to later on in the show. But let's introduce you to the audience who doesn't really necessarily know who you are, because I know you had a really interesting upbringing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that so we can bring our audience up to par with you?
Okay. Well, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, actually, my family came from Italy and Sicily in the old days, and my family settled in Brooklyn, New York. They came out to California in 1953. I think the thing that I'm upfront about that people don't see, you don't ever talk about, is I came from a mob family, a mob connected
Mobsters.
family. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Like connected with the Bonato Colombo family.
Okay.
Rudy Giuliani is the cousin of my cousin. Obviously, he made war on the mob, so it was kind of ironic that, but growing up, I never knew that as a child. They keep it from you. They say, do as we say, not as we do. I grew up in Covina, and obviously Covina is a suburb of LA, not known as
So
a mob
you grew
area.
up as like a Southern California boy then,
Yes,
right?
I did.
Okay, very cool. Continue.
But it was my mom that used to run with, she would tell us the stories about running with Frank Sinatra.
No kidding,
And the guys,
the
they used to
Rat
call
Pack.
him Nicky, the Rat Pack, but
Yeah.
it was before he was he was considered Frank Sinatra. They called
Okay.
him Nicky. But what happened was my mom's dad had a beauty parlor, and he was a barber slash beautician, if you will, in the old days, in the 40s. And everybody would do business there at the barber shop. And one day, my mom, being married, they had a run-in with a mobster. My dad was very violent, and the guy threw a hammer at my dad.
Oh my gosh.
And threw a bucket and screwdriver, and there was no stopping my dad.
That's
anyway.
intense.
He stabbed my dad.
That almost sounds like the inspiration for Jerry Springer right there. Like
Yes. Yeah,
weapons, just straight in a barber shop.
But unfortunately, it led with the fact that he used to beat up my mom, my brother, my two sisters.
Oh my
He was
gosh.
pretty violent. I came along and later and was spoiled. But it turned out that the guy was connected to the mob that stabbed my dad, but he saved my dad's life because he brought back malaria from the war. World War II.
Oh.
And so he saved my dad's life, otherwise I wouldn't be here. And the mob sent somebody knocking at the door and giving my mother a warning that they're not going to win the case in court, and that, but wait, we can't touch you, you're Sal DiGennaro's daughter. And sure enough, they just won the case, but they didn't bother my mom nor my dad. It was, you know, it's all about being back east, being from back east, being connected. But nonetheless, you know, coming from somewhat of a made family with my cousin Louis, my family had the reality show Mob Wives.
Which was what I believe on a VH1 show, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, Mob Wives. Okay.
Louis, well, I should say Louis had his own crew. Louis and Lois gave birth to Lee. So it was Lee that it was on the show Mob Wives.
Seeing a theme here. Lois, Lee.
Yeah. So actually, Louis had a lot of connections, and he married my mom's sister's daughter, Lois, and it's all in Rudy Giuliani's book, but they gave birth to Lee. Both Louis had his own crew, Lee had his own crew, all under the Colombo Bonato family. But simply that VH1 Mob Wives was a #1 reality show for a good long time.
Did you actually like watch episodes and be like, that's my family right there?
I would watch episodes because Drita is married to my cousin. Never really showed my cousin. You know, you hear him and never really showed him. He was, you know, he did time in the pen and got out, but I mean, you never really see his face. But Drita's married them, and my cousin used to date Sammy the Bull Gravano's daughter, Karen Gravano. So that write-up was also in Karen Gravano's book about my family, about my cousin Lee.
When did you realize growing up, like, oh my gosh, I'm like part of like the mob, like whole family thing? Like, was it a cool thing? Was it a scary thing for you growing up?
At first, I really didn't quite understand it. But yeah, people coming over to the house, stacks of money on the table, guys with guns. I mean, you know, this type of thing. But all the Italians, mom always had food. And to me, oh, hey, here comes Joey. Oh, this is even the actors would come by. Tony DiBenedetto that starred in Steven Seagal's movies. A lot of the celebrities. My godfather was a jockey. He used to race at Santa Anita, Hollywood Park.
Oh, cool.
Pomona, and of course he stopped to do some movies as well. Ray Bianco. And but I mean, it was just I met all these these people growing up, and you know, and
you didn't think it was like special because you were just used to it so much.
Oh, it was Italian. It was the door was open. The whole neighborhood was at my house.
Right.
You know, I come home and the place is packed with people, and of course card games all night. You look and you wonder, and you know, and but nonetheless, as I started growing up, I started understanding, and the truth started coming out about who my family is, and until one day I answered the telephone. And really, then I really knew. I pick up the phone. It was my Aunt Louise, and oh my God, she's crying. They gunned down Lewis, and it came across our news waves out here in California, and basically they set him up and gunned him down. It wasn't the Feds; it was the Feds, and that set him up. Well, the Feds ran around, told everybody to get off the streets, otherwise you're next. This is how it works. So obviously, they killed him, and of course the family took retribution later today.
Oh my gosh.
It was back and forth. It was a war, but I knew about it. I was the one that answered the call.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and chat in between here with Randy. But when we come back, Randy Massaro is going to get a little more in depth with us in regards to his participation in the entertainment industry, and then we're going to chime in a little more with wildlife. Hi, and welcome back to our second segment here on Desert Empire Vibe, aka The Vibe. I'm your host, Andrew Caravella, here with actor and animal activist, wildlife activist. Is that the actual technical term? Yeah.
Yes.
Extraordinaire, Randy Massaro. Now, you're well known. You're part of the mob family to a degree and stuff. So let's talk about the entertainment aspect, though, now. Okay. So you grow up, you start kind of dabbling in the entertainment industry, you know, befriending these Hollywood greats. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my family was also in the entertainment industry. My brother was an impersonator magician during the Ed Sullivan era. Ed Sullivan wanted my brother over Rich Little, David Fry, and Frank Gorshin. In fact, Joey Heatherton's father wanted my brother. And at that time, Joey Heatherton was a big wig in the entertainment industry.
Who did your brother impersonate? Like, what were his ones?
Who didn't he impersonate?
Okay.
I mean, John Wayne, Kirk Douglas, Jimmy Stewart, Charles Bronson, Edward G. Robinson, Tony Curtis, Burt Lancaster.
Nice.
You know, he did them all. And I worked with him on it, too, because I incorporated him into my routine, but with my MC and DJ business. But my sister was also in the modeling and beauty pageants until I think it was Playboy or Penthouse wanted her. She got out of it. So I mean, I grew up in a family that was dabbling in the entertainment industry. My brother never did go on Ed Sullivan. He went national throughout the Air Force. He performed.
He did the USO tours and stuff?
Not so much as USO, but he won so many contests throughout the United States. The Air Force loved him. He performed for the officers.
Very cool.
But back then, in black and white television, not today, he had braces on. And what would happen is when you'd smile, he was a little silver streak on the screen.
In my generation, we call those crunk teeth.
Okay.
Yeah, Little Wayne, he puts like gold, like metal. Yeah. It's a little different.
Right. Well, my brother didn't like it. He was supposed to go back to New York. He never got them off, and it was just a delay. So he never pursued it. I came along by basically always loving the entertainment industry and getting to know certain people. One day I'm in a thrift store, and actor David Hill, he has an IMDb. I think he's done 119 movies. He found me at a thrift store and said, excuse me, you're in your cowboy duds. Can I borrow your cowboy hat? In fact, can I borrow
You mean you dress like this in public?
Sometimes, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if I'm doing a radio show or something, or for the wildlife, it kind of, this is out of respect to the Native Americans. So they say, oh my God, he killed a deer. I don't hunt. I never did.
We were actually talking about that backstage. Like, he's a wildlife activist, but yet he's wearing leather.
Yes, yeah. It's out of respect for the Native Americans. They survived on hunting, but the thing is they did it for survival. Today it's for fun, sport, and profit.
Right.
But simple fact that there's many other actors involved with saving animals, dogs, cats, domestic and wildlife.
Who have you worked with on that level for wildlife, you know, as far as other actors and celebrity figures?
Well, for example, when I was with Greenpeace, I joined Greenpeace in 1970 when I was in a junior high school. I first learned about the whales being killed, the clubbing of the baby harp seals. By the time I was in high school in the 70s, I became a Greenpeace representative.
Wow.
And I was getting to know, I had pictures with Loretta Swit and I together, Cindy Williams, William Shatner,
oh, cool.
Tippi Hedren. All the wildlife activists would all join forces to march together. Today, everyone's divided. It's about that almighty donation dollar. So everyone wants to be the star. You know, it's too many chiefs, not enough Indians. And every wildlife group is fighting for position. And obviously, they get the donation money. Here, years ago, we were all together, whether it was Actors and Others, Planetary Patriots, Greenpeace, Fund for Cleveland Emery's Fund for Animals, Animal Welfare Institute. Everybody joined forces. Now, you know, everyone's split up and fighting with each other, and we're losing, obviously, animals every day.
So Growing up, what was like that deciding factor? Like, I really am enthusiastic and I want to get involved in wildlife and such. Like, what were the moments that made you start thinking in that direction?
From being a young tyke, my dad used to take me camping all the time.
Okay.
Crystal Lake, Azusa Canyon, wherever. Lake
Do you
Isabella.
have a couple favorites specifically?
Well, you know, I liked it all, but wherever I could see animals, and I would
Okay.
sneak up on the deer and the elk. I had Native American friends that would show me get upwind of these animals, and I'd sneak upwind of them until one day a big buck came out of the bushes, and as close as you are to me, I could reach out and touch his nose. He could have gored me and killed me.
Yeah, I
But
would have
would
ran the
straighten
other
his
way.
eyes. I stayed still. He looked in my eyes, I looked in his, and he took off, and he scared his fawn.
How long? Like, because I'm pretty sure that's an intense moment because it's with a creature that's wild. Like, because if I saw Bambi, bye, I'm out of there. But like, how long would you like engage in that stare from this far with the wild animal?
You know, I would have to say it seemed like 10, 12 seconds, but the thing is
That's long, though.
It was long because he stood still. He just stared at me, and I stared at him. I didn't move. I was just in awe. And yet he looked, his eyes, I'm looking at his eyes, and he just reared his head back, and he went to the bushes and scared the baby does and fawns away. But to me, to kill an animal like that for fun, or they say, oh, you kill it to eat and survive, but every hunter says they kill it, you know, to eat it. Well, how many wolves have you eaten this week? How many coyotes? How many bobcat? How many lynx, wolverines, badgers? All these animals you don't eat.
Yeah.
So it's obviously the number one people, the number one, I can say that when hunters hunt our animals, there's pelts, furs, and hides. The Communist China and Communist Russia are the number one buyers of our furs, hides, and pelts. So think about it. Get the American hunters to ruin the ecotourism. Ecotourism outweighs hunting every day of the week. So the simple fact is that I looked at why not connect other Hollywood celebrities, get in with the wildlife. So bring them up to the Wolf Sanctuary here. Tanya Little Wolf has Wolf Mountain Sanctuary. We had Sons of Anarchy, cast and crew at Twilight. There's a dear friend of mine, MGM screenwriter George Anderson, who comes on out, and all these different wildlife people come on out, and they do their part to save animals.
That's awesome. We're going to get more in depth with the wildlife here after our next commercial break. Don't go away. We got animal rights activist and actor Randall Massaro here on The Vibe. We'll be right back in a hot minute. Hi, and welcome back here to Desert Empire Vibe. I'm your host, Andrew Caravella, here with actor and wildlife activist Randy Massaro. So we talked about Greenpeace. You got involved in junior high, and then from there, doing camping trips with your dad, and that's pretty much where the start of your wildlife activism passion came from.
Yes.
So tell us, I guess, what I really want to know now is, right now in this day and age, in your opinion, in this country, what do you think maybe the top two endangered species, not endangered species, I guess, but animals that are at risk that need the protection? Because people aren't really aware of what kind of wildlife is out there and what it is that we need to be protecting. So dabble a little bit with that for us.
Well, go to Africa. Obviously, the elephants, the rhinos, lions are being decimated now, along with the tigers. So those are the top four there.
What about here in the States?
You know, let's look at the top predators. They're usually the ones that everyone's going after, which would be the wolves again. We spent $300 million to bring them back.
But how bad is it with these wolves specifically? I mean, is it like every day, like the massives of animals, like I'm assuming cattle, are dying because of wolves? Like, what is the actual percentages here?
Well, when people cry the big bad wolf, the simple fact is wolves are family. You know, they're very family oriented, and even coyotes are. The thing is that these are fur-bearing animals, and yes, they're predators. They go after livestock. But the truth of it is less than 2% of all predators have killed livestock, according to the U.S. General Accountability's Office.
So what's the other 98% killing livestock?
Well, that's just it. The livestock aren't. Well, they get reimbursed by the American taxpayers. So the thing is that if you know the cattle industry, they pulled the premature calves away from their mothers, and of course they get killed right away. And whether it's making yogurt and all this other sort of stuff, and I'll let some other experts get in on that. But the simple fact is that the fur industry is big. There's fur farms, and now with the Anti-Environmental Terrorist Act, if we get videotape of cruelty of people treating animals badly, we're the ones going to jail. So it's something like there's protection now for the people that are really treating these animals bad. They electrocute the animals so they don't damage the fur. They stick something down their throat,
Oh my
electrocutes
gosh.
them. There's all these different things, but and I don't want to get too grotesque.
Right,
I mean,
of course.
we've got undercover
Family
footage.
show, yeah.
Well, we've got undercover footage of a lot of horrible stuff.
So if we were on like a YouTube or maybe Netflix, maybe some documentary names, maybe some filmmakers that we, if we wanted to do our own research on them that we should be looking at, or maybe some titles that we could look at so we can kind of educate ourselves better.
Yeah, I think Brooks Fahey from Predator Defense, if you look him up on YouTube, he does a film called Exposed. He does other things like families that had their dogs caught in traps. Their kids had stepped in steel-jawed traps and different types of traps. So Brooks Fahey is great. He's going all over doing this stuff. But also, there's other great filmmakers like George Gage came out with American Outrage and how the BLM took the wild Mustangs away from the Dan sisters.
And what is that, the BLM? What is that specifically?
The Bureau of Land Management,
okay.
Which we call the Bureau of Land Mismanagement.
Okay.
You got to figure that hunting, trapping, and the poaching industry, but now it's not just hunters killing wildlife. You got our state, local, and federal agencies all killing wildlife. So, and they're spending our tax dollars doing it and without our permission. The wild horses, the horse built America. We built America on the backs of the horses, along with the burros. These animals should be on our flags. We have the grizzly bear, the brown bear on the California state flag, and we don't have any more grizzly bears left. They got killed up until the 1920s. We used to have 60,000 grizzly bears in California. That's how Big Bear got its name. So many grizzly bears in this area of the Victor Valley and Big Bear Lake area. We used to have California gray wolves. We finally won protection for them. OR7, he's now coming back to Shasta County, and they just gave birth to a litter of wolves. But they want to kill the wolves after they reach 50 in California. They want to start hunting them again. They just started coming back. So there's coyote hunting contests. The coyotes, these animals keep us alive by eating the animals that get us sick with rabies, plague, typhus, fever, and hantavirus. These animals are our best friends, so why are we killing the animals that keep us alive? So,
like you said, for profit, right?
Well, I mean the fur industry, but it's also just for sport, for fun.
Just for sport.
And they feel that the coyote isn't useful, and yeah, they're killing sheep. And I'm not saying these animals aren't killing livestock. They do. But you know what? Go to www.nightguard.com and you could buy this little infrared solar light that blinks and keeps wolves, coyotes, and all animals away from your livestock.
What was the last, I guess, activist project that you worked on recently?
I got a call from, strangely enough, I got a call from the ASPCA in Washington, D.C. They said, "Are you Randy Massaro, that wildlife guy and the actor that you sit on some Native American boards?" He says, "Well, can you connect us to the Native American community, because we're going to court in New Mexico against the De Los Santos slaughterhouse, and basically they're pushing to slaughter the wild Mustangs." They said it's not just cattle that they want to slaughter; they want to slaughter the horses too. So actor Robert Redford, former Governor Bill Richardson were part of this lawsuit, and they needed Native Americans to join in because, lo and behold, the cattle industry convinced the Apaches and Navajo nations to slaughter all their horses. So what we did is we joined forces, and Front Range Equine, Hillary Wood and Front Range Equine out of Ocala, Florida, they were the main plaintiffs in the case. But they needed our union members for preservation of wildlife, which consists of union, Teamsters, Native Americans, all of us combined, wildlife activists, and even actors. And we all got in there and joined forces, and we won we beat them on the first case.
That's intense. We got to do a reality show on just that. So
well, again, second time.
We got to take another commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to wrap up here with Randy Massaro. So keep it locked. It is a brand new episode of Desert Empire Vibe that you're watching here at KVVB Television. I'm Andrew Caravella, and we will be right back. So please keep it locked and don't go away. Hi, good evening once again. You're watching Desert Empire Vibe. I'm Andrew Caravella, finishing up our interview with Randy Massaro, actor and animal activist, wildlife activist. So, Randy, let's talk a little bit more about you as an actor. I know we talked a little bit about that earlier, but I want to talk about the future. I want to talk about what's on the horizon for you in regards to productions, maybe some different animal things that you're going to be doing. Summer's just around the corner, so it'd be kind of cool to just kind of chime in on that. So start wherever you'd like.
Okay. Well, like I said, David Hill seen me at the thrift store. Said, "Can you? I worked in law enforcement also, and that was. I know it's kind of ironic, coming from a mob family and working in law enforcement."
See, I told you, this guy is like Chuck Norris in the flesh. Really. Continue.
Not quite. But so I did a TV series called Border Battles about the Minutemen along the Texas border, Arizona border.
I've actually heard of that show. That's a pretty good show.
I played a Texas rancher, but basically I had a primary acting supporting role, just underneath the star David Hill. He has 119 movie credits. Basically, it's a true story, a true docudrama about the Minutemen on Texas border. The book is for sale at Barnes & Noble and all over. So I thought I'd take part in that because I worked in gangs and drug cartels and with the feds and getting, you know, license.
That's exciting. Do you ever get to fly in the helicopter?
No,
Okay.
I was all on the ground.
That's all I want to do, is just be in the helicopter.
Yeah, I mean, my life has been threatened so many times by just about everybody. If it ain't the hunters, it's the drug people. But nonetheless, I dabbled in law enforcement. I'm retired. I got sick. I was paralyzed back in 2005. I beat the illness.
Like you couldn't walk, paralyzed?
80% paralyzed. My fingers curled up. I was walking
why?
like this. It started with gout. I was on foot patrol. I was a state officer now with the California Horse Racing Board. And I caught this illness. It started with gout, but then it was more than that. And I was still in pain. They found out advanced stages of rheumatoid arthritis, but it was even more than that. It was ankylosing spondylitis. I was a 198-pound officer, not real buff, but nice and firm, and on bicycle patrol, healthy, and also walking. And all of a sudden, within weeks, I was 145 pounds. My vision was blurry. I couldn't walk. I was shaking like this. My finger. I was a mess. And, you know, it took 25 doctors later, and I was dying from all the medications they were giving me. But nonetheless, I came back.
How long was your rehabilitation process for that?
From maybe 2005 to 2007, give or take.
2 years, that's a lot.
It took me out of commission somewhat, quite a bit. But so this is out of body awakening came about too, and I'm not really a religious person, but when you hear this voice and this bright light like what you have here in the studio, Randy, go back, speak for them, save them, do what you used to do, and it sent chills down my spine. I'm not a real religious
Probably
person.
freaked you out then even more in that case, right?
I tried to open up my eyes and I couldn't, and I'm thinking, okay, I was weaning myself off all the medications, and all of a sudden you hear this voice as if you're talking to me, and all of a sudden I wake up and I'm Patty, and my wife, my kids. I got up out of the bed and I'm scurrying out through the whole house. Nobody was there, and that just it was kind of like a thing, you know, got to go back and continue saving the animals. And met up with actor Tom Laughlin, and I promised him before he died that I would continue the fight to save the wild mustangs and other animals. You could watch Billy Jack and Born Losers, the trial of Billy Jack. Billy Jack goes to Washington, and he has a wonderful cult following on Facebook. Dolores Taylor, and she's still alive in Redondo Beach. But teaming up with all these different actors, I met Clint Walker, had the pleasure of meeting with Ernest Borgnine.
Very nice.
We all picked photos together. But I'm bringing other actors involved. We just had a big event, which your channel happened to cover us at a horse rescue here in Pinion Hills.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're branching out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Johnny Crawford from The Rifleman, who I teamed up with, Pat Redbone Vegas of that Native American iconic group Redbone that did the song Come and Get Your Love, Witch Queen of New Orleans.
Very cool.
Al Anthony, country rock singer. George Anderson is always hanging around with me. He's wonderful to work with. He has passion for the animals. There's a lot of other actors doing this. Tippi Hedren joined us with the Playboy Bunnies to protest against Cecil the lion being killed.
Oh.
So I'm all over Google, Bing, Yahoo, AVG.
Yeah, this is awesome stuff. Where do we follow you and all the different things that you're involved in online? Like, where can we find that information?
I'm terrible with the computer. I don't even know how to operate my cell phone, to be honest with you.
So let's start with Facebook then.
Facebook, Randall Massaro, Randall. Massaro, Randall Massaro, and it goes right there. Or you can go to some of my representatives. We are union members for the preservation of wildlife. Started back in 1970 out of Europe.
And who are those union members?
Union members, basically, they were union and Teamsters that said, you know what, we're tired of seeing all these animals being killed because it will affect us in the ecotourism
I mean, if we Google
industry.
the unions, like what are the names that we're looking for?
Just union members for the preservation of wildlife, and it pops up, or umpw.org,
Okay.
or go to wildlifekeepers.org. I'm not afraid to give up my phone number. I mean, the feds have called me, the California governors called me, the Nevada state governors called me. I mean, I'm raising, you know,
That's
havoc
good.
all over.
That's good.
I got written up in a New York magazine, Palm Springs magazine.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing is exposing the corruption from within, and I worked on the inside. Now being a whistleblower, I'm teaming up with the former chief USDA meat inspector. I'm teaming up with a former BLM agent turned whistleblower. I'm teaming up with a lot of inside people bringing this out in the open.
Cool. As long as it brings attention to my show, I'm happy.
I'll bring them all in. Love to bring them on.
That's awesome.
You know, we're working with a lot of celebrities for future. I hosted the Wiley Drake Show, critically acclaimed talk show, the Wiley Drake Show. He's a Southern Baptist pastor that preaches fire and brimstone. I managed, ran his show while he was in Washington D.C. And but anyway, and culminating, the fight continues for our wildlife.
That's awesome.
And as an actor, I know I could bring more attention to it.
You know what? Thank you so much for coming today, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having
Randy,
me.
aka Randall Massaro. I'm Randy Caravella. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Desert Empire Vibe right here on KVVB and Roku. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Later.